I didn't know it
It's
was
a secret.
automatically. There we go. All right, let's get my screen share up here. Bada boom. Share that guy. Look at this, you guys. I even created a little presentation for you all today. How about that? All right, you guys can see the screen, yes? No? Anybody?
Yep. Yeah, we
Okay.
can see it. I can see it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure do.
All right, good. So this is one of the biggest values that we can provide our clients who are homeowners each and every year. This is a great thing to do. And I've actually done these as webinars as well, you know, when the SOI gets big enough, rather than trying to do it, you know, in person, which I can do. I can do a seminar in person and teach people how to do this, and they can bring their tax notices with them, and then I can go through everything. That's something that you could do. You could schedule your own seminar at your office for people that are in your SOI and have it be a client event, or you can do it over webinar, which I've done 3 of these over webinars, and you get a really great turnout when you do this over webinar. And if you put it on something like Eventbrite, you know, tax appeal free, you're going to get a lot of new people that'll click on it, because they're just going to be Google searching around for how to appeal your property taxes. And guess what shows up when people Google search? Eventbrite stuff. So you could actually do this as an Eventbrite. So, you know, the whole point is we want to help our VIP clients, our SOI, if you will, appeal their property taxes should they feel that those come in high. But this is something that most of you guys have not done. So I'm going to teach you how to do it, and then we'll have this recorded. And by the way, I'm dropping it in the team training file, same place that you'd find all the market stat numbers in here. Same place, but I created one called Tax Dispute Appeal Info. And so this presentation I'm doing is here, and then the recording will be here as well. So you guys can go back and watch it should you need to. All right. So first thing is just kind of starting with the script that we would use to call the people that are in our database. And even somebody like Andrew, I mean, this is a value add that, you know, all the people that you have in your pipeline, your funnel at the top of the funnel, this is also something that you can call and say, hey, by the way, this is something I do for my VIP clients. If you feel like your tax assess notice comes in high, send it over to me. I can actually help you dispute those taxes for free.
Everybody hates paying taxes.
Yeah, nobody likes taxes. And this, again, this is something I've done for 20 plus years in my real estate career. And every year I still help people dispute taxes. So I would simply, you know, this is an easy script. Hey, this is Josh with Keller Williams Real Estate. I just wanted to touch bases with you to let you know that your property tax valuation notices are going to be coming out the first couple of weeks of July. And one of the ways that I help my VIP clients like you is to help them dispute their property valuations. So right here, you can see I just added some, like if you're missing some information, you can just say, I notice I don't have an email address for me to send over the dispute comparables. Would you mind providing that to me? Or I notice I don't have your current property address in my system. What is that? Great. So here's the deal. If you feel like the value is coming in higher than it should, and I want you to send me over a copy of the notice that you received from the county, and I can check sold comps from last year to see if we're able to get that value down for you. I don't mind doing this, of course, and there's no charge. It's just part of being my VIP club. So welcome to the club, right? So let's just look real quickly. Sorry, let me, I got to move some stuff on my screen. All right. So what is your property tax valuation based on? A lot of people don't even know. Even real estate agents sometimes don't even know, like, what's the valuation actually based on? You're basically paying property taxes to different taxing entities. So obviously you have counties, municipalities, school districts. You have special service districts that also provide public services, right? So Mill Creek, for instance, is just starting to charge a new tax, which would be a special service district tax for redoing all of the storm drains, right? So they're just starting to collect taxes on redoing that. That shows up as a separate line item on a tax notice, right? The taxable value is basically it's the mill rate. And you guys have heard of mill rate. It's just essentially a tax rate for each of the taxing entities for that particular area. And each year, the taxable value, as well as that mill rate or the tax rate, may actually change. It does change every year. You know, even if property values go down, this happened in 2008 to 2012 with property values declining. People were wondering why the tax rates went up. I have my own personal theory, and that is they weren't collecting enough taxes from all of the empty homes because of the foreclosure crisis that we had. And so they had to figure out how to increase tax rates on certain entities. So the mill rates had actually gone up, even though the property taxes had gone down. All right. Market value can go down and still have the taxes go up, as mill rate and taxes can, and in fact, usually do go up. When was the last time you guys saw property taxes go down, mill rates go down? I'll answer it for you. Never. All right, good. Moving on. So there are three ways essentially to dispute property taxes. The first is if your client had purchased the property within the tax year prior. Remember this, taxes that they get for 2023, that notice that comes in July, those are actually based on 2022 tax values, right? 2022 values, I should say. So they're not based upon this year. That's a common mistake that a lot of people make. So if somebody bought a house since 2022 for less than what they were getting on the tax assessed value, they could literally just turn in a copy of their fully signed settlement statement from purchase along with the appeals form, which we'll get to in a moment. There's the appeals form. They could actually just turn that in, send it in, and that's usually good enough. What's really good is if you actually have an appraisal from 2022 saying that the property was worth less than what the tax assessed value comes in at. So maybe if the home was purchased at that point in time, but maybe even, and you'll see this happen not so much this year, but probably next year and the following year, people may end up refinancing their loans and they may end up having another appraisal. If that appraisal is less than the value that, if the appraisal, we shut that door for me. If the appraisal is less than the tax assessed value, you can send in a copy of the appraisal. They love appraisals. That's the best way to dispute property values. They'll basically just go right off the appraised value. And then the final way that we can dispute those tax assessed valuations is where real estate agents like you come in, and that's sold comps, right? So we can take and prepare a CMA with no less than 3 valid comparables. And now remember, they still need to be valid comparables, but not always valid comparables and conditions. So when we do our CMA classes here, we have this condition feature that we may add into our CMA. But maybe what you do is you don't use the condition feature and find properties that were very much like the property that you're trying to help dispute, but those values are quite a bit less than what the tax value came in at for whatever reason. As long as the remarks, and the pictures don't look terrible, it doesn't look like a total hammer job that it needs to be tore down. A lot of times they'll take those as comps. So you have to have a minimum of 3 and no more than 5. And remember, the comps that you're providing are based upon last year's sales. So if you're going into the MLS, for instance, and let me just log in really quick so I can actually show you this. So you would go to like a quick search, but one of the things that you'd want to do is set your sold parameters, your sold date to be within, if you're doing it last year, you would go 01/2022 to 12/31/2022. So that's the era that you're looking for, right? If your home's a single family home, basically you guys now know how to do CMA. So you have to still compare apples with apples. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to find the least favorable apples to see if that could favor your clients. And that's what you end up doing. But the sold date has to be last year's sold date. It can't be this year's sold date because property taxes are based upon last year. Now, I've gone to a multitude of tax hearings at the county buildings, Davis County and Salt Lake County. I've gone to many tax hearings in there. And I always just bring the CMA that I prepared for my clients. So when you prepare a CMA, just make sure that you save the CMA that you prepare as the property address and call it a tax dispute. So property address followed by tax dispute. That way, if you end up going to a hearing on behalf of one of your clients, which you can do, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, you come prepared with the CMA. Now, these guys, here's what they've done to me, just so you know. So I had one property where I sent in very valid comparables. The property that was being disputed was in fact dated, hadn't been updated in probably 25, 30 years. And I found some comparable sales that were right in the same area, totally perfectly comparable, that had sold before they were updated. And when I went into the hearing, do you know what the Board of Equalizations provided to me as their evidence? They provided those very same comparable properties that I gave to them that had been flipped. So they used the second sale of these properties, not the primary sale. And that's when I had to say, well, look at this. This is a flip property. Go ahead and pull those up. I'm a real estate agent. I can pull them up for you right now. Look at the pictures of what you're looking at versus these. The reason why I use these is because this property hasn't been updated in 30 years. And I won that dispute. They ended up coming by the property to do a visual inspection of the property, but then they confirmed my results over their results. So these guys, they say that they're a neutral party, but I promise you, they are not a neutral party. They're going to pretend to be a neutral party, but they're not a neutral party. So I just want you guys to be aware of that. That was an actual experience that's happened. Another experience that's happened is I worked for a luxury client of mine. I've disputed his taxes, and they had the square footage wrong. They had and I had the appraisal that showed the square footage. They also had the amount of fireplaces wrong, and they also had the amount of bathrooms wrong and the style of bathroom, being a full bath, 3/4 bath, or half bath, misappropriated. So they had a lot of bad information, and they ended up coming over, doing a walk through the property. I actually met him at the property. I met the appraiser at the property that the county had sent over to walk through the discrepancies that they had versus the reality that the property had. So that's another way that you guys can provide value to people. My own property, they had more square footage in the basement than the basement actually had. And so I had measured the basement myself to get an accurate square footage. They had the basement almost 600 square feet larger than it was. And so I measured it and got the proper measurement and disputed the taxes, and they had to send somebody out to do a physical walkthrough of the property. And I had that person measure the property while they were there, and they found out that it was incorrect. So they had to change it onto county records. So there are a lot of different, pieces of information that might help your clients get a more favorable dispute for taxes. So those are the three different ways that we can, that a client can dispute taxes. And it's this way here that we are helpful. This is where we come into play, is helping them with that. But sometimes, when clients call me and say, hey, do you think we should dispute our taxes? It came in at 500 and we bought the house, that year for 450. I'll just say, yeah, I'll send you a link to the appeal form, fill it out, and just turn in a copy of your appraisal with the appeal form, send it in. That's all you have to do. All right. All right, well, let's talk about sort of what happens behind the scenes during the appeals process. So the first part is the tax administration essentially screens the submitted documentation for sufficient evidence, AKA if a real estate agent is helping, they're looking at the CMA report that we prepare. When you prepare a CMA report, you're going to do the summary analysis, you're going to do the full comps, and the comparison analysis. Those are the three components that you'll send to your client that they'll also send in. If necessary, taxpayer receives notification that more evidence is needed. This has happened to me also on a number of occasions when I've actually acted on my client's behalf and disputed the taxes on their behalf. So I have some clients that live out of state, or I have some clients that are kind of like high-end luxury clients that don't want to be bogged down with the nitty-gritty details. Well, in the event that happens, you're actually able to fill out an authorization form from any of the county's websites that allow you to act on the seller's behalf. You just fill out the document, upload it into DocuSign, have your client sign it, and then send it back. Then if there's any notification that they're looking for more evidence, that notification will get emailed over to you, right? And just so you know, if you don't respond to that where they need more evidence, if you don't respond to that, they dismiss it. That's happened to me as well. I missed the email and they dismissed it. So I had to go in the next year and do the same thing and pay closer attention. All right. The second part or phase 2 of the appeals process is where the assessor will review the documents and then make any recommendations on whether the value should be adjusted or not. I will say that I probably have a 20% success rate in submitting proper documents and helping my clients out. But I also have a lot of clients that'll hit me up and say, hey, my tax value came in this high. Do you think I should dispute it? And oftentimes, especially in a market that's been trending up, tax valuations came in low. And I don't want to dispute it because it won't work to their benefit. Taxpayer can receive recommendations by mail. They can accept a decision to finalize the appeal, or they can continue to the next phase, which is the hearing phase. And none of you guys should be afraid of the hearing phase. All you're going to do is basically, if you're doing this on behalf of your client, during the hearing phase, you're basically just going in and presenting the same information that you already presented. They're going to show you their information, and you're going to look at their information and dispute it. You're going to critique somebody else's valuation is all you're going to do. You're going to look at things like square footage or bathroom. Look at the comps. Look at the photos of the comps. You know, I mean, bring your laptop with you and connect it to your iPhone so you can actually pull up their comps right in front of you, look at it on the MLS to see, are they giving good comps or are they using 100% renovated, remodeled comps, which oftentimes they do. Right? I said I'm successful 20% of the time. That means 80% of the time I'm not successful. I have to look at their comps and figure out what's going on. And that's, you know, that usually takes place at a hearing. So hearings don't happen all that often, but I've been to many of them, but I've also helped many hundreds of people dispute taxes, right? So the taxpayer can come and be present at the hearing. Again, there is a neutral liaison hearing officer. They say right when you walk in, hey, we're a neutral party. We're not here to say right or wrong. We're just here to listen to the information that you have. The hearing officer will propose a recommendation, and the Board of Equalization will usually approve the recommendation that the hearing officer proposes. But just so you know, those hearing officers don't necessarily propose the recommendation the day of you won't get notice, let's say, the day of the hearing itself. Usually you don't hear anything back on a hearing until a month and a half or 2 months later, literally. And more often than not, just so you know, taxes are already due by the time you hear something back from the hearing. Your clients are still responsible for paying the full amount of taxes that are proposed. However, what will happen is if they agree to a reduction in the assessed value after the taxes were already due and paid, then your client will receive a check by mail from the Board of Equalizations. Okay. And then the phase 4 is the Utah State Tax Commission will mediate any disputes between the taxpayer and then the tax assessor, and then send the final decision to the taxpayer. What I find, generally speaking, unless there's some seriously erroneous information that the evidence that they collected on their own includes, that you're more often than not going to succeed through phase 4. You'll succeed through phase 2 and phase 3. More often than not, you won't succeed through phase 4, unless, you know, I give you the example of the property that hadn't been updated for, 30 years, and they had a walkthrough. And after the walkthrough, that person presented the results, and the Utah State Tax Commission did indeed adjust. And then also, if there's any information that they've provided, like the house has 3 fireplaces, when in reality it doesn't have any fireplaces, or it says that the main floor square footage is 1,200, but from a recent appraisal or from measuring the house that it's only 900. That's the only time that you're probably going to get any approval from the Utah State Tax Commission. They basically don't want to improve anything, right? So most of your tax assessment notices that come in the mail are going to look like this. All right. They're going to have the property address here, information about the property. Now remember, see where it says above ground square footage? That's just gross living area. Same thing an appraiser will do. They don't necessarily go for appraising the value of the lower square footage. So when you're doing a CMA, it's important that your above ground GLA be very similar to theirs, to what they have, right? And if your property is a 2-story and their property is a one, or if your property is a 1-story, but you're using 2-story comps, you'll get thrown out immediately. You have to compare apples with apples, right? Just as if you're doing a CMA for a listing client, you got to compare the apples with the apples. All right. It'll tell you what last year's market value was, or the last year's market value, and what it's been adjusted for this year. That's your total taxable value right here. And then down here, it'll show you where all of these taxes are coming from, right? So here's your mill rate, school levy, water school, debt service. I don't even know what that was for. Salt Lake County, Draper City, the county library, the mosquito abatement program. Yes, that's not free. The Valley Water Conservatorship, South Valley Sewer, Utah Water Conservancy. I guess what I'm saying is these are all the different taxing entities right here. These are the mill rates for those entities, right? So you can see what was the mill rate previously and what is their mill rate now. And has it gone up or has it gone down? So if you haven't seen one of these, again, it'll be in the tax dispute information that I've put together in the folder for you guys, and you can kind of look at one. Each county is slightly different, but they're almost all the same. It's just the layout of each county. This is Salt Lake County's. If you looked at Davis County, it's going to look very similar, but the layout will be just a little bit different. You can always go to the taxing entities websites right here, and you can see the layout of theirs, but you also get the information of how to appeal. Each county has its own appeals form, right? So definitions on this, I'm probably not going to go through this, because if you want to know what the definitions are for each one of these sections in here, I've written it all down for you. Literally, I'm just like, I want you guys to be the expert on all of this stuff, but I could run through all of this. You're just not going to remember all of it. So I just left it here for you. So if you look at a tax notice, pull out the definition sheet next to it, and then you can see what everything means. All right. So here's what you have to do. This is called an appeal form. This is just an example of Salt Lake County's appeal form, and theirs really hasn't changed. All of the appeal information that you see in this highlighted bluish purple, that all has to be completed information. And so typically I just send over the appeal form link to the PDF for my client to print out. And I remind them that they need to complete all of the purple information. And here's the deal right here. It says, what do your sellers think the fair market value should be? Well, this number that goes in here should be the number that's on the CMA that you prepare for them. So if the number on the CMA is $537,215, that's the number that should go here. Okay. The basis for the appeal. So all of the counties will say, what are you sending in as evidence? Right. And you're going to be marking this box C, which is here are the sale comparables that we have that we're submitting. But sometimes if you're sending in the sellers or the closing document, that would be A. And if you're sending in an appraisal, that would be B. No desktop appraisals are allowed for this, though. Just so you know, like if somebody did a refinance and they had a desktop appraisal done for the property, that won't qualify as a fee appraisal. A fee appraisal has to be an appraiser that comes out to the property, measures the property, and does an actual full valuation. They can mark this box here. This is just basically saying they would waive their right to a hearing. I don't ever have my clients mark that box. Why would you waive your right to the hearing? If they want to have a hearing, just show up to the hearing. Like I said, it may be intimidating if you've never done one, but once you've gone in and done one, all you're doing is saying, no, my information is correct and yours is incorrect. Why would you choose those comps over these comps, right? And you have to look at what they're providing to you and whether or not it seems to be factual. All right. And then very, very important right here, this box right here has to be signed by your client Or if you're acting on your client's behalf, then you would sign that. You would just have to have, let me see if I can find what they call the form here. Hold on, I gotta move stuff again. Maybe I put it over here.
Authorization letter or something.
Yeah, right here, sending in the forms on their behalf. Yeah, it's just a signed authorization. So like if I went to one of these websites, let's just do Salt Lake County really quick. I'll just click on this. These links are live for you guys to use. But then I could put in authorization up here. Let's see. Maybe seller authorization. Normally, I don't have much of a problem trying to find it once I'm looking for it. So there it is, authorization form. And it would be here, forms and policies. So it's in here because I've done it. But if you can't find it, you could literally just draw up your own that says, my name is Dave, or whoever your client is. So if Dave was my client, my name is Dave Bachman. I'm giving Joshua Stern authorization to appeal my tax assessed valuation signed on this date. Here's the property address. Here's the parcel ID number. That's all it says. But they're usually, you can find the forms on here. I'm just not.
It's the third one down.
This
Fourth
is
one. Sorry.
fourth one. Oh, owner authorization. Thanks. Yeah, there you go. See, boom. That's all it says. Each county would have one of these, but you could use this for any of the counties. They'll accept it all. I only have one that looks basically like this, but it doesn't say anything about tenant or COO or CFO. It doesn't say that. It'll say mine says real estate agent. So yeah, you can actually go on to these hearings on their behalf. What a cool freaking value add to your clients, right? To actually go through the process for the clients. If you want a client for life,
Yeah.
just do that. Just sign up and do these things. Okay. So these are all the county taxing links. I don't have yours, Zach, on here because we primarily deal with the 5 counties, but Park City will have their own assessor's office and it'll work basically exactly the same way. And as far as I'm aware, all of these counties are essentially delivering their tax assessed notices the very beginning of July. And essentially all of the counties have a deadline that you can dispute. If you're going to dispute, it has to be done by, the dispute has to be postmarked or emailed by September 15th. So that they're not giving you tons of time to dispute. There are some workarounds for late disputes, but I've never actually tried to file a dispute late. So one of the things, let's go back to this, like if you're not able to dispute a tax assessed value by more than say 10 to 20,000, it may not even be worth doing it because it'll only change their amount by 10 or 20 bucks, right? But if you can do 20K or more, then go ahead and do it. Just do it. Worst case scenario, most of the time what happens, I'm telling my clients that their notice came in low. That's most of the time because they're going to send me a copy of the notice. And by the way, I tell them, look, you can send it to me via email. I prefer that. But if you can't figure out how to scan a copy of it to yourself, just take a picture of it and then text me the picture. That way you can look at the value that they have and see if that's something that you can dispute. And so come, usually end of July, beginning of August in there, I end up getting, several dozen people hit me up year after year after year. They'll hit me up and be like, hey, here's my tax notice. Should I dispute this? Is it worth it? And I'll do this. I'll just do a basic CMA. I'll look at comps without even running a CMA to see where the comps are coming in. And more often than not, like I say, the comps are going to come in lower than what the tax valuation is. But that's not always the case. And that's how you guys can be helpful, right? So my thought is maybe you guys consider doing something like this. You can call all your clients and use this and let them know, but you can also use this as a client event for all of your people. You can get together at the office on a Saturday, like the first, Saturday of August, right? Just get in there and have, do this live with people. You can use the same presentation that I have right here. It's yours for the taking. It's right here. You can use that, make a copy of it, modify it, put your information in it, right? Again, all the links are right here. You can have your people bring in their assessed notices, and you can make copies of them for yourself and just say, okay, I'll get to work on all of this. Or you can teach your people how to do it themselves. But this is a really great way to do a client event. But also, like I said, you could do this event via Zoom or a webinar. And that's also a really, really great way to get, attendance. And you'll get a lot of people that you don't know that'll come onto that. You can blast it out on Facebook. So you get a lot of other people's information now on Facebook that you didn't have before. You can do the same thing on Instagram. And if you create a free event on an Eventbrite link, you're going to get all of their information because they're going to have to provide it to you to register for that event. So you're just getting name, address, phone number, email. You get NAPE. So it's such a great way to feed your database. And if you're doing it as a webinar, my recommendation is that you do it the first Wednesday of August. And the best time to do the webinars would be anywhere in between the hours of 6 and 7 p.m. for a start time. That data was provided to me by Frank at Viral, who coaches a lot of people on doing webinars. So that's apparently the best time to do a webinar. And I've had a lot of great results doing this as a webinar, by the way. The last one we did, we had more than 300 people sign up for it. And I don't remember how many of them we didn't have in our database, but a lot. I did a blog on this about 15 years ago, how to do this, how to appeal your taxes. It became the number one when you searched for tax appeal, Salt Lake County tax appeal, any combination of those words, the very first thing that came up was mine. So for a number of years, I held the top spot for the most probably looked at blog. I was able to get a lot of people's information by that. And then people be like, hey, what do you charge for this? And I say, one referral.
That's a great price.
Yeah, it's a great price because everybody's going to know somebody throughout the year. And you're just going to let them know, I'm going to stay in touch with you, every 90 days. I'll keep you posted about what's happening with the market. I'll let you know about our other events like this that we do. But I will call and just remind you for that one referral price of admission. And they're all totally cool with it. And it worked. It works. That's why I wanted to do this more as a, as a class for you guys today, because it's such a great way to build value, add value, build your pipeline, get more people in there.
So what do you think about with valuations having gone up significantly over the last 3 years? I mean, how often do they really redo the valuations on homes? Like, are we going to actually see any, you said about 20% of people that you are can do something for. Are you thinking that high still in this market?
Of the people that I can do something for, I have a 20% success rate. That's pretty much the truth. Give or take a percentage, most of the time I can't help people dispute the values because the values are coming in lower than where the comps are, but it's still a great touch point because they'll send me their stuff. I'll take a look at their comps. I'll even send them the comps and I'll call them up and I'll say, I have good news. Your taxes are way lower than they should be. Because look at the comps. They're like $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 higher than what they valued your property at. So you are sitting pretty, my friend. The last thing we want to do is raise any red flags to the city or the county and let them know that they're undertaxing you.
Just a great reason to call your SOI in general if you haven't talked to them in a while.
Totally, man. And like I was saying, this is one of the most powerful things that you can do for an SOI. This is your VIP script here, right? It's a great way to get missing information. It's an easy call to make too, because any of you guys who are afraid to talk to people that you already know that like you, this is like, okay, I'm just giving you here. I'm just coming in with contribution. I'm going to give you something that nobody else is doing right now. Your people will remember that. Trust me, they'll remember it. I know, because I don't send anything out to my people anymore. And I still, last summer when I was up in Alaska, I probably had 50 people sending notices. What a great way to stay in touch. And I don't mind. I love doing it. But I think that you guys are smart enough that you could do this for free, or even buddy up with your lender and inspector or whoever and do it as an event. Broadcast it out online, record it, do it a couple of times. Once you've done one of these, you'll realize how easy it is to do these types of webinars, and then you'll probably just want to use it to build your pipeline. How to buy a home at a 5% interest rate. First-time home buyers, right? That'd be a good one. How to sell your home in an uncertain market. I've done all of these, just so you know. I've got copies of them. You could watch me delivering exactly how I do it.
This
And
is
those
the
are-
number. Go ahead, Janet.
The video of those is in the team share.
That is not, those are not. Yeah, because
Oh.
I did those when I was a part of the Stern team. So those are on a
Okay.
different drive. They're not inside of this drive.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is I'm giving you guys a huge heads up. I've already prepped up most of your this is all you really need.
Just white labeled.
Yeah, you just go ahead and put your information on it, man. I'm giving this to you. And then I challenge you guys, to make this an event. Make it an event for your SOI, do it as a webinar. You probably would have to do a monthly, to do it as a webinar, you have to have a paid Zoom account, but you could just pay for it for 1 month and it would be like $20 or something like that for you to do it. Have your preferred lender, your home inspector, your insurance person, whoever it is that you do a lot of business with, have them sponsor it. Put their information on there, have them pay the $20-30 for the Zoom and put their information on there. Right. But imagine if you had an Eventbrite and you broadcast this over social media, right? You talking about how you can help clients, in a video dispute their taxes, saving, over the course of my 20 years. I mean, literally, I've probably saved clients. It'd have to be over $100,000 at this point. I've done this for so many years, and I've literally helped out many, many hundreds of people successfully. And like I said, I've gone to many hearings. So if you really want to stand out for your true VIP people, just offer to attend the hearing and fill everything out for them. All they have to do is sign the authorization form. That's it. The authorization form would get sent in with a copy of the appeal form filled out, signed by you as their representative, right? And the CMA, which needs to include the full comparables, the comparison sheet, which shows the adjustments, and then the summary analysis. That's it. Send it in. And then if you get notified to go to a hearing, I'll high five you, man. It's an awesome experience. You should definitely do it, because you'll realize once you do it that even though these taxing entities are supposed to be neutral, you're going to know they're not neutral at all. They're totally trying to increase as much as possible the amount that your clients are paying in taxes every year. That's all they care about. Those suckers, they ditched my comps and used the remodeled versions of them, the flip properties, which changed the value by 150,000. I would have never caught that had I not been at that hearing. I would have never known that. I go to the hearing with my computer and I use the, what do they call it? The hotspot for my phone to my computer. So when they present their evidence, I can actually pull it up and look at it. And you can watch their faces turn white when they realize they're talking to an experienced real estate agent. They do. They're just like, oh, you have access to this? Yes, I do. Let's look at those photos together. Here's where I have problems.
Dope.
A lot of value.
Dope.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, is there anybody on this call right now that's actually listening that doesn't want to do this? Or any concerns that you guys might have that we could talk through?
Agents talk about increasing their average price point for deals, this is how you do that, because the individuals that care about this kind of stuff tend to have more expensive homes and really appreciate this kind of value.
Yeah, I have a client that lives in her farm. And I have her doing this for her entire farm. Here's why. The comparables are all the same. Hers is a planned unit development. I don't know how many properties are in there. Call it 50. Okay, well, they're almost all, the comps are going to be the same for all 50 properties. It's just going to be a different appeals form. So she's going to bat for all of her clients in a planned unit development. So if you have a farm that you want to work, this is a great thing to door knock around, right? This is a great thing to send out to via email to your farm or social media to your farm if they have a Facebook page, a neighborhood Facebook page, and put it up on there. It's a great way to add people to your database, and you're going to be providing a hell of a lot of value. Like I said with Andrew, you know, all of the sellers that he's been in contact with that aren't going to, you know, maybe they're not going to do anything for a little bit. What a great reason to call back that isn't anything to do with sales. I just want to help you out. And here's one of the ways that I can do it. Holy shit. Now you know for sure nobody else is doing this. They're going to use you. All you got to do is stay in touch. They'll use you. That's it. Plain and simple. Janet, did you have any ahas or any questions?
Sorry, I didn't realize you could go to bat on their behalf. And that's
Yep.
really cool because that's truly a value add on that. And I really like the idea. I like in person, but I really like the idea of like a webinar or something like that, because I think you can reach people who you wouldn't normally reach.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole point, is use this to actually build your database, your have met database. It's free to create an Eventbrite link. It's free to do that. In fact, maybe we have maybe we'll have Audrey do like just a short class for you guys for training on how to create an Eventbrite link, how to create an Eventbrite.
You know, and it's a really good thing. I mean, I've done dual events with other agents and things like that. And the Eventbrite is really neat because you do get some outside exposure if you do it right.
Yeah, and if you make it look good and you've got the right keywords that are in there, you know, so it's property tax appeal, Salt Lake County, property tax appeal, Davis County, right? Hit all your counties that you're trying to help. Hit all of them, because those are all keywords that'll show up in a search. So the other thing that's really cool too, this is a relatively new thing that's happened since COVID, but you don't actually have to go to an in-person hearing anymore. You can do the hearing virtually. At least Salt Lake County does. I'm pretty sure the other ones do as well. So you can just do it virtually if you want, and it'll save you a little bit of time. Personally, I think you guys should all just man up, woman up, and go do some in-person hearings, get the experience. It'll make you better people, trust me. And as I said, when your clients realize that you're actually going to a hearing on their behalf, what do they think of you? What do they pay you to do that? Nothing. You know how much loyalty that creates between you and your client? It's forever. As long as you keep them on your 36 touch and don't drop the ball on making your phone calls, they will have loyalty for. It's my favorite event, you guys, to do. And now is the time to start marketing this. Pick a date. If you're going to do a webinar, do it in person at the office. Pick a date now. Make sure, you know, you get your stuff ready for this. Maybe Audrey, maybe next week, you know, you can do something on how to create an Eventbrite for people that don't know how, and then we'll just put it into the same tax dispute folder. And it gives you guys enough time to start making phone calls to your database.
Sweet.
Right.
You know, come around like end of June, start doing that, early July.
I'd start making the calls now. Well, I'd pick
but
a
I want
date. If
another
you're
reason to not have to call my SOI.
Well, I wouldn't wait. You know, I mean, I just start calling through now and then getting an Eventbrite up and seeing how many people you can get to register for this, you know. When I say now, that means most of you guys will do it in 2 to 3 weeks, which is just about enough time.
Put it on my to-do list.
I know, exactly. All right. Okay, that's what I got. I'm actually heading over to the Midvale office here before long. We've got a recruit that we're going to meet with over there in person. So there is no the CMA. I won't have enough time to do today. I don't know if you saw that on the calendar invite. So I'm glad you were able to make this. This is a lot of value for your people, and it will definitely be the thing that you'll be remembered as for your database. So I look forward to you guys all doing this. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for putting that together. Really
Okay.
appreciate it.
You're welcome. See y'all.
All right,
Peace
adios.
out.